Welcome to this look at the new pig system on Seasons 19 on console with me, MrSealyp. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to attempt to do a tutorial kind of guide to the pigs. A lot of people have been asking me, am I going to do them? And I did say in my last Let's Play video that I was trying to work out the best way of tackling this. This is going to be done in 3 separate videos, and there's a reason. 1, if I do it in 1, it's going to be way too long and it'll get too complicated. 2, there are 3 different operations that can be run with the new pig system. So we're going to have a look at the first one. This episode we'll look at the first one. The next episode will lead on from this, and it will look at technically the third one, but I'll explain all that in a second. We've got 4 new breeds of pig with seasons. 2 of them are sows, they are breeding pigs, hogs, and the other 2 are piglets. We'll have a look at those and the differences and what that's going to mean. The 3 different operations you've got are farrow to feeder, feeder to finish, and farrow to finish. Farrow, the term farrowing is a hog that's in the process of giving birth or going to be giving birth. So what it means by farrow to feeder is a pig that's giving birth to a piglet, and then you keep that piglet until it's at a certain age or weight, normally about 8 weeks, and it's about, I think it's about 60 pounds, 30 to 60 pounds is what it says on the Realismus site. And then what a lot of farrow to feeder operations will do, they then sell off the piglets, someone else takes them on and they do something else with them. So that's farrow to feeder. So you're basically getting the piglets, getting them to about 8 weeks old, a certain weight, and then you sell them on. That's the first operation. That's what we're going to look at first. We're going to do farrow to feeder. Well, the sort of last one that's on the list, but I suppose what would come next, is the farrow to finish. So you start off the operation exactly the same way. You have your pigs, they give birth, you get them to about the same size, about the same weight, about 8 weeks old, about 60 pounds, and then you separate them out and they go into separate pens. So you've done your farrow to feeder, and then you do the end bit, which is feeder to finish, and then you fatten them up till they're much bigger grown, and then you sell them on. So instead of being kind of small piglets, they're now pigs in essence. So that's the farrow to feeder. Farrow to finish does the entire thing right the way through. The third operation is a feeder to finish, where you don't have these sows, you don't have the animals that are going to give birth, you just buy the piglets. So you're buying the piglets at 8 weeks old and just fattening them up. So you've got nothing to worry about births, and you haven't got to worry about the older pigs or anything like that, or anything like that. You're just buying the piglets and you fatten them up and sell them on. So if you do a farrow to feeder, when you sell on those feeder piglets at 8 weeks old, somebody else would take them on and do the feeder to finish. So there's the 3 different options you can go for. And this is why I said in my Let's Play, it's a bit of a minefield, and there are so many different elements to this. So I'm just going to crack on now. What I've done, I've got 5 pens. 2 of them are empty because I'm going to put piglets in those in the second episode. Don't worry about that at the moment. This first one is going to be farrow to feeder. So what we'll do is over here and we'll have a look at the breed types. So we've got Yorkshire, they're all females, they're 1 year old, 419 pounds. These are your first of your sows, so these are the ones that are going to give birth, or they will give birth at some point. I'm pretty sure in real life sows can give birth nearly, well, up to 3 times a year, I think, and they can do 11 to 13 piglets at a time. So you're looking at potentially sort of 36 average piglets per year they can do. I don't know whether that's going to be the case here. The next of our breeding pigs is the spotted, which are also female, also 1 year old, 320 pound weight, 762 to buy. So the Yorkshire, it does say known as the mother breed. This breed of pig is a very fast growing animal but requires a high amount of capital for the initial purchase. They're a lot more expensive than the rest of them. The spotted, say, known for their carcass quality, the spotted grows relatively fast and can be purchased for a modest amount. Now those are the 2 we're going to be looking at in this episode. The other 2, the Gloucestershire Old Spot and the Berkshire, or Berkshire, depending on where you're from and how you say it, these are your piglets. They're 0.2 years old, 53 pounds and 57 pounds, so like I say, nearly, around that, I think it's between 30 and 60 pounds So these are your feeders. They're the ones that you would buy and do feeder to finish. But what we're going to do in this one is we're going to let our sows give birth, and we're going to get them to that piglet size. That's hopefully what's going to happen. That's the plan. So those are the 4. Now, as far as feeding stuff goes now, if we have a look in, well, that's the other thing. If you haven't watched any of my animals guide to tutorial videos on Seasons 19 and animals, if we go into our main menu now, the animals are no longer along the top menu when you've got seasons on. Okay, you come out of there. If I do L1 and options, it opens up this menu, and we can go along to our animals there. So my first pig enclosure is the one that's got my Yorkshires in. My second pig enclosure has got my spotted in, and then my last pig enclosure I've put Yorkshires in again, 20, but what I'm going to do with that one is I'm not going to give them any straw. I'm just curious to see how much difference that's going to make, not having straw or having straw. I think it will be also down to the fact that if you give them straw you get manure, if you don't give them straw you get slurry. And that's the same with all the animals now. You get one or the other. You won't get both. I know a lot of people complain and saying, but animals do produce both at the same time. Again, I didn't make the mod. I'm just, that's the situation. That's how it is. The other big difference to look at here as well is the feed. In the previous version and on the base game, you feed your pigs corn, wheat or barley, soybean, canola, sunflowers, and root vegetables. You can do potatoes and soybean. Not soybean. Sugar beet. Potatoes and sugar beet. With seasons, that's been removed, so you've only got the 3 feed types. You don't have to do wheat and barley, you can do one or the other. You don't have to do soybean, canola and sunflower. It's one of those 3. So you're only doing, Now the point is, and this is the other reason why I wasn't going to tackle this as a kind of tutorial, I'm going to feed them pig food, just for the simplicity of getting feed in and going through the process. You can feed them all of those separately. Pig food is expensive to buy, it makes the whole process expensive, but then you've got the knock-on effect that if you're running arable fields, often you're better off selling the crop and making a profit on the crop than you are feeding it to the pigs. It's always been that pig problem on Farming Simulator, is that you don't really make enough from them for what you give them, and it's a bit of a dilemma, but I thought I'd show it anyway. So I'm going to use pig food just as ease of use. Obviously there are a lot of different parameters. If I only gave them corn, what would happen? If I only gave them wheat or barley, what would happen? If I only gave them soybean, canola and sunflower, what would happen? There are so many different permutations of what can happen. I couldn't get it all into the videos. I couldn't do enough videos to show all of that. That's something you're going to have a bit of a play around with yourselves, unfortunately. There's no way I could show all of that. I just can't place enough animal pens and show enough of that. So that last one's going to be a bit of a test pen. Now, another thing you've noticed as well, or you may have noticed, that pig enclosure there and that pig enclosure there both say water and water pump. That last one doesn't. So what I was going to show you again, I've shown it on all of the videos so far, with seasons on, and this is only with seasons on. If I go into this menu here, if I go to my placeables, my animal pens, and go right to the end, there is a water pump. That is only available with seasons. It's only available with seasons on. That's not there all the time. Now what I'm going to do is buy one of those. I've put them on all of the other pens already, but find your water trough, get it as close to as you can. That's actually probably not too bad. Right there. And what will happen now is that now says at the end water pump as well, and if you notice it says 694 litres, 529 litres and 694. That water pump will always make sure this never runs out. It will not fill the water trough, but it will just make sure you never run out of water. So as far as the situation where animals can die because they haven't got feed or haven't got water, you can kind of eradicate water from the problem. You don't have to worry about that so much. If you do want to keep doing the water yourself, absolutely, you don't have to put a water pump down. You could put a standpipe, you could put something, and just, if you want to do it yourself, absolutely do it yourself. You don't have to. So what I'm going to do now is feed them their pig feed. I'm going to put bedding in the first 2, but not straw in the last one. Then we'll speed up time and we'll see where we are in early summer. That's probably the best bet. I've waffled on enough. Let's get cracking on this and see how we get on with getting some piglets, shall we? Okay, for the purposes of getting through this sensible rate for me personally, because I'm on console, I can't speed up times like times 5,000 and just whiz through the days. I've got one on 3-day seasons. This will obviously fluctuate depending on what day seasons you're running. The feed will always balance out across the year. If you're running a 9-day, 12-day or more seasons, you're not going to have to put more feed in. I think the initial input just reduces and you haven't got to put as much in per day, but it will balance out across the year. So in essence, we've gone a month on. We're a month ahead. So let's have a look. Where do we stand? Our first pick enclosure with our Yorkshires, they've gone from health. They start 80%. When you put the animals all in, they start 80% health. They've gone up to 84% health, so they've increased. They've put on a little bit of weight as well. They've gone from 419 to 428 pounds in weight. They've used a little under half of their feed and straw, and the cleanliness needs sorting out. So your feed's only going to last realistically 2 days. You might get away into a 3rd day, but that's a bit of a risk because if you don't, your animals can die. So you need to be careful, make sure they've still got feed. The second enclosure with our spotted in, again they're up to 84% health. They've gone from, what were they on? 320 pounds in weight to 328. That's not as relevant because it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. It's the piglets you want. And the last enclosure that doesn't have straw in, they have gone up in health, not down. They've only gone up 2%, not 4%, and their weight's only 427, not 428, compared to our kind of control group. So not having straw in there at the moment is not having too much of a negative impact. A slight negative impact, but not massive. When we get piglets, that could make a difference. Now, what I'll also do, if we scroll up, and if I go with my left stick across and go up my list of animals, if you see some of them, none of them are saying not fertile. They're all saying next animal in, which means they're going to be giving birth at some point. Some are saying 0.3 years, some aren't saying anything yet, which means in 3 months, possibly 4, it was always a little bit of leeway either way, we're going to get our first young. So if you're getting your pigs and you're expecting to get piglets immediately, that won't happen. It's going to take probably 4 months before you get your first piglets. And then obviously on a farrow to feeder, you're then going to need 8 weeks to get those fat enough to then move on. That's what we're going to be looking at. So each of our pens says that. We've got some that are saying 0.3, some are saying nothing, and as we move forward we'll get some saying 0.2, then more saying 0.3, and hopefully it will kind of bounce its way up. And now all of these animals, and the thing about seasons you have to be aware of is that this side of things is fairly random, in so much as not all of your animals will all be giving birth at the same time. So some will be giving birth, some will be at the next stage almost ready to give birth, some will be a bit further back through the cycle. So you've got this rolling cycle of animals giving birth. So you're not in that position where you have all give birth, then a long period of nothing. So it just kind of rotates around, and that's what this menu on the right hand side will tell you, is which ones are ready to, which ones are nearly ready to, which ones have, and and what it will do is it'll put the piglets in at the bottom or possibly the top, depends whether you save the game and come back in again. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to fill up their feed, fill up the straw, clean out the troughs, and we'll skip ahead and see where we are. Right then, we are 4 months in. Some time has passed. We are on early autumn. We are at a position where we are on the cusp of piglets. If we have a look into our menu, our top enclosure with our Yorkshires in, they have put some more weight on. Their health is up to 94%. And if we go across and go down the animals, we've got some saying 0.0 years, so that's any time now. Could be during the course of today, could be tomorrow. Bearing in mind, like I say, I'm on 3-day cycles, so over the course of today, in essence, is a month. So at some point today, we could get some new bursts. So I've got 0.2, 0.0, 0.1, I think there's some at 0.3. So we've got a whole load now. So what will happen is each game day for me, each month, I'm going to get more births because, like I say, the bases are loaded. They're all there waiting to go, and they will start to roll through these cycles. If we go across and down to our spotted, they're also at 94%. Again, bases are loaded, we're good to go, almost there. And on our enclosure where they've had no straw, the health is only 87%, not 94. However, if you look at their weight, that says 453. My control is 455. So even though their health is much lower without the straw, their weight gain has been almost the same. It's going to be interesting to see when they have the piglets, whether the piglets will grow Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Whether the piglets are going to grow at a slower rate because the health is lower across the pen, possibly. Because as soon as you get your piglets, the piglets will come in at 80%, which will drop the health across all of them, realistically. We'll kind of see how that pans out. So, like I say, I'll feed them again, and what I'll do is I'll speed up time for today and see if we get any births today. Feed-wise, I wouldn't say that the Yorkshires are taking that much more than the old... the spotted. It's negligible. They are taking a little bit more. I suppose you'd scale up if you had 400 pigs and you had 400 of those, there would be a significant difference in the two, but at the moment not so much so that you would say, well, these aren't worth having because they use so much more food. I'm not finding it's too bad. Obviously if you're preparing all your food yourself, or if you're buying pig food, and it does get expensive. You can pick up a few contracts and bits and bobs here and there to cover your costs, but it depends what route you want to go down. So let's speed up time and let's see when we can get some piglets. Okay, I am later on that day, this day, so we are 4 months in and we have new births in all 3 pens. So we're going to our menu. Our first pen with our Yorkshires, we've had 11 births. Now it's too early to tell at the moment. We've got more births with our spotted, but because it's random which ones give birth and how many give birth at any given time, unless one of them over time really stretches out further than the others, I wouldn't like to say whether one particular breed is more prolific than the others. That being said, this is a point where you have to make a decision. I've got some piglets. Now what you can do is separate those piglets out now. They haven't been weaned yet because they're still small. So realistically you can keep them with their mothers, with the sows, until they get to that point. Between 30 and 60 pounds is where you want to be if you're doing farrow to feeder. Normally at that point they would then get sold, or they would get moved into separate pens. Now you could move them into separate pens now and then feed them separately if you wanted to. It's entirely up to you which way around you do it. Like say our spotted, we've had 14 bursts, and our ones with no straw, we've had 30. So not a lot of difference at the moment between our standard set of Yorkshires and our ones without straw. So at the moment straw doesn't seem to be having a massive effect. We'll see how we go from there. If we look at the animals themselves, we do have a mixture of females and males. So if you look at our 3.5 pounds in weight for the Yorkshires, these are our newborns, and they do say newborn. Now on the Realismus website, on the information I've got, it does say about the different types, and it does mention here that you have got birth, wean, nursery, grower, finisher and mature. Now I don't know if that was part of the testing and the information they gathered originally, that all their data was gathered like that, so I don't know what we're going to see. At the moment they're saying newborn, which I'm assuming is birth. So we have got a male in there. Now obviously the male, that will be brought up to feeder, or if you want to take it all the way to finish, then you sell it. The females, you can do the same. You can get them to feeder, sell them, or you can get them to finish and sell them, or if you wanted to, you can then keep them as breeders because they're female. So you could then just carry on the process. There's so many different variables on this that you can actually do. The males obviously won't breed, they're not going to give you anything, so they're going to be the ones you definitely want to either get to feeder or finish and sell. The females, you've got choice what you want to do with those. So what we're going to do now is carry on again. We're going to speed up time. It does say it takes 8 weeks to get them to feeder. We'll see how it changes from newborn, what stages it gives us, and then we'll get to a point where they're between 30 and 60 pounds and we can sell them on. So that's what we're going to do. That's the first part of this farrow to feeder. Okay, I'm back again, still on the same day. I have a problem, and it's kind of a good problem in a way. Now I said a little while ago that at this point, obviously until you get to 30 to 60 pounds, when you would normally take the feeders out and separate them, you can separate them whenever you want to. I'm going to have to separate them. I went for small enclosures. These only hold 100 pigs each. I went for small because I thought I'm only going to do 20 of each, and let's be honest, how many piglets are they going to have? I'm not going to fill one up. Yeah, right. My pig enclosure without straw, I'm up to 73. I started off with 20. That's 53 new births. That's mad. 53. All the ones that say not fertile. Oh no, some of the... Oh, because they're not fertile yet. The ones that are blank completely, the males, 53. If I keep going, I'm going to hit my 100 limit. And that enclosure will be full, and any new bursts that I would have had, I can't have because there's nowhere to put them. Weirdly, my Yorkshires in my first enclosure that have got straw have only had, what, 29 new ones. They seem to be behind a little bit. Again, there could be the randomness of it. And then, obviously, my spotted are at 43, so they've gone up again, but I'm going to have to move some. I've got to move some into a separate enclosure. So what I'm going to do, my 2 spare enclosures that I was going to use for the next episode, I'm going to have to use now. So I'm going to take out the extra spotteds, I'm going to put those into the first enclosure, I'm going to take out the extra... Yorkshires. The extra spotted are going to go into the second enclosure. My last enclosure, if I hit 100 on there, I'm going to have to just sell them off. I can't place any more enclosures. Because I'm on console, you've got a limit to how many you can place, and because we've already got the main ones at the farm already. So it's a good problem to have. 53 new births. That's madness. I only started off with 20. So yeah, I'm going to have to move some. I'm going to get on that now. I'm going to move them into a separate enclosure. We'll see how many we've got by the morning. I think we're going to have quite a few actually. So yeah, see you in a little while. This is why I wasn't going to do a guide on pigs. The world's gone mad. Absolutely bonkers. Alright, I'm another day forward, in essence another month. So we've done 5 months. We're in mid-autumn. This menu has gone a bit haywire, and you may experience this, you may not. I don't know what's caused it, but if I look at my first pig enclosure, my Yorkshires, I moved all the excess out, took them all out. I'm now up to 81 on there. So I took out the 29 that I had in there. They're in that enclosure. They're my Yorkshires I took out. So I've got another 61 on top of the 29 I took out. So that's 80. That's 90 births. In just over a month, we've had 90 piglets. The second enclosure, with my spotted in, we're up to 89. I took out 23 and put those into the other enclosure. Oh god, that's a lot. My third enclosure, the one that doesn't have straw in, I was up to 73. I didn't move any. I had nowhere to move them to. So what I did was sold 23 of them. Well, I've now gone back up to 100 again on there. So I assume there probably would be more on that, but the enclosure will only hold 100. So I've had another 50, potentially more than that, on top of the 23 I'd already sold. The piglet production is off the charts. I would suggest, and at this point, if you're going to do pigs, only use big enclosures. And that was big enclosures, not pig enclosures. Obviously you need to use pig enclosures. The small ones, you're just going to get... So I only started off with 20. Imagine if I started off with, I'll buy 60 pigs because I want to have a nice, load of pigs. yeah, it's off the chain. Now this is where it's all gone a little bit haywire on this menu. If I go across now, actually just go up to my initial Yorkshires, all of them in that menu are all saying newborn £30. Every single one. So according to this menu, all of my original breeders aren't here. I've got some saying £33, then the very, very new births are saying £3.5, and I've got a mixture of all sorts in there. But according to that menu, I haven't got a single one of my original pigs in there, which doesn't make sense. If I go down to my spotted and go across, same thing. According to this menu, £3, £3, £3. They're all the new births. If I come all the way up, I'll get some that are saying 27-ish, something like that. £30. So, and £27. So for all intents and purposes, we are 4 weeks on. So we're halfway through that period where we're going to get our feeders. We're doing farrow to feeder. You sell them between £30 and £60. Well, I'm at £27, £30 on some of them. I need to get them to somewhere between 30 and 60. Then we'll sell them all off. As it stands at the moment, the prolific rate they are reproducing, we're going to be making money anyway, regardless what we're doing, because there are just so many. I'm not sure what to do now. I'll move the surplus over, because obviously if I move the surplus into the spare pens, the pen here that's got 29 and the pen that's got 23, because none of those are at breeding age yet, I won't get any new births in those pens. It's just these other pens that are just, I can't keep up with them. But here's the thing. If that's panicked you, which it panicked me, if I come over to the actual point where you load, unload, that's the other thing to point out. I did show you the little bit on here where I was, a little clip of me, not with that one, with the animal trailer, loading, unloading. I have never had a problem with animal triggers, ever. When I've placed pastures on any map I've played, I've never had a problem, ever. I really struggled to get the triggers to work. I went on and off and on and off, and all of a sudden I clicked L3 and it just suddenly worked. No rhyme or reason, don't know why. If you're having trouble loading or unloading, if you're doing it yourself, I would suggest just keep plugging away. It did work in the end, but I don't know what was causing it. If I come onto here and go across to my farm, they're all in there. It's showing me my originals. My originals are all there, 1.4 year. Yorkshire 01001, my first pig. All of my original ones are in there. And as I scroll down, I will get to the new ones. So we go £33, and then we'll get right the way down to the new newborns at £3.5. So for some reason, this is working fine. If you come onto this, it's working fine. If you go onto this menu, it's tripped out for some reason. I don't know why it's done that. It's very, very peculiar. So I would suggest if you're doing pigs, you have this problem, don't rely on that. Load, unload and sell you're going to have to do from here anyway, and that's where you're going to be able to pick out the ones that you want to move, the ones you want to sell, because that other menu's not working for me at the moment. So I'm going to move all the spare again. I'm going to feed them all again. We'll skip forward again, and we should get to a point where we've got our feeders. So we've done our farrow to feeder bit. Hopefully, if nothing else goes wrong. Okay, another day has passed. We are in late autumn, which means another month has passed. We are 6 months into this whole project right from the word go. 4 months into 5 months was where we got our first births. 2 months on from that is where we should now have our feeders. Our first 2 pens have got our original Yorkshires, our original spotted. The next 2 pens have got our feeders, and I had to move them out. I just ran out of pen space. I had so many new births. Like I say, you need to use big pens, the larger pens. They're more expensive, I know, but that's your only option, really. So these have got my feeders in. So I was getting them from newborn to feeder weight, which is at 30 to 60 pound. That's the point where, as a feeder, you would then sell it. So this is where part 1 ends, because if we look at these now, unfortunately this menu is still messed up. It will tell you how many more. We've got more births in our pens as well. I've got another 19 in the first Yorkshires. I've got another 46. I cleared them all out. I took them all out. I've got another 46 in my spotted. I've got another 5 in the pen that's got no straw down the far end. These are my 2 pens that have got my feeders in. I've got 97 Yorkshires and I've got 92 spotted. Add to that the 19 and the 46. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of new animals. I only started off with 20 of each. It's absolutely crazy. In that pen there that had no straw, because I had nowhere to put all the new ones, I've actually sold 103 already. I just had to sell them. There was nothing else I could do with them. I didn't have another pen. I mean, I could have used the main farm pen, but it would have been meant travelling backwards and forwards and have a whole another feeding setup over there. So I've sold 103 of those. So looking at it, at the moment, not having straw in there has not stopped them being prolific at breeding. It doesn't seem to have stopped anything happening. The only difference is without the straw, they produce slurry. The ones that have got straw produce manure. That's the only difference between them that I've found so far. So the thing about it is now, these are our feeder pens. We've done our farrow to feeder, and this is farrow to feeder / finish. Part 2 will be the bit where we take these through to finish. So if we look in this menu, and this is where we've got to be looking at it, we've got them ranging from our very, very latest ones that went in, which are right down the bottom, and they're all our £30 ones. I tried to move all the £30 ones, 30, 33. They're not worth as much. They need to go a little bit further. They're not at the feeder stage yet. The ones that are supposed to be £30 to £60, if we go up a little bit further, we've got some £74 ones there that are worth £192 each. We've got a couple of 77s which are worth £196 each. We've got some 70s which are worth £186. So obviously the further up you go, the better it's going to be. But if you are going to go for a feeder setup, farrow to feeder, this is the point you want to be selling them at. £30 to £60. Obviously the more days you run, if you're doing a 6-day season or a 9-day season, you're going to get smaller increments of growth on each of those days. Because I'm doing 3 days, I'm getting bigger jumps in between. So if you're running more days on your seasons, you're going to get a slower incremental increase, so you can probably gauge it a little bit better between the £30 and £60. But these ones here are all ready to sell. I can sell those as feeders, and I've done my farrow to feeder bit. That's it, done. I've kept up with the feed, no problem at all. What I would say though, if you are going to sell them, you need to sell them using an animal trailer. Do not sell them directly, because they're only worth 186 each. Your fee, I think, is 200. Is it 200 per animal or something? It's you know, if I show you, look, let's go on. Let's pick the first few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, for example. Maybe it's only 100. So I'm going to make 1,873, and the fee's 1,000. So I'm only going to make 873 by selling those. There's no point. You need to transport them. If you transport them and sell them at the livestock market, you'll make the total amount yourself. That does mean investing in a livestock trailer, I get that, but if you're going to be running this setup longer term, that would be part of your investment you'd have to look at anyway. So for part 1, I think we've seen the breeding of pigs is insane to keep up with. So the next part is going to be, in part 2, we're going to take these feeders right the way through to finish, which is where they're going to be about 280 pounds in weight, and that's where we want to be selling them at finish. So at the moment they're a feeder, we're going to take them to finish. The thing with that is, while that's going on, we're still going to be getting new births. They're still continuing to breed. I don't know where I'm going to put them all. What I might have to do is just focus on the feeder troughs, and then any surplus we've got, we might just have to sell them off. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I'm going to keep a tally of how many births we've had though, so we can see how prolific they're going to be. So that's the end, for all intents and purposes, of our farrow to feeder stage. Part 2 will be feeder to finish. So the part 1 and part 2 will take us through the farrow to finish. That's the whole point. I hope you found this useful. It's been a bit crazy, but if you have, give us a like. If you don't subscribe yet, please do. If you want to leave a comment, feel free. And if you want to share this video, then please be my guest. Whatever you should choose to do. Thanks for watching.